Welcome back for another book review. Today we are talking about this one. So this is Backwoods Witchcraft, Conjure and Folk Magic from Appalachia, and it is by Jake Richards. Now this is one of those books that I was very timid to jump into because I am not from there, obviously. I'm from good old Utah here, but I have family from there. On both sides of my family, I've got people from there. So I have my maternal side where I have a great aunt who lives there, but she is a transplant. She moved from up north down and moved her family down with her and has lived there ever since for like most of her life. And then from my paternal side, they left there. They were from there and then they converted to being Mormon, and well, now they're here because we are the Mecca central space for the Mormons. We are their place in the world. So, of course, a lot of them want to come here. So my family left over in the Appalachians to come here to Utah. But I've never really felt much of a call to that area. It feels very much like an in-crowd thing of you have to be born there and be raised there to learn anything about it. Cause until I drove in Tennessee, I've never seen an armadillo ever. That was an experience that. I've never seen them before. They don't live here. And to see the possums around, they're freaking adorable in their little creepy faces, but we don't have them here. But I don't know that they have rattlesnakes and scorpions. So it's just different. And so I just felt I couldn't claim that area. So I didn't feel like looking it up much. I get it's a very niche group that I'm I just don't know that I belong over there. So I don't know that I want to touch it. But as I'm reading through so many books, I was well, inevitably I'm gonna have to, just fine. Because this has been promoted heavily, so I was whatever, I'll check it out. And it was really good. So this book, it does set it up in a way that you get to understand the cultural context in a lot of ways, which is really nice. Because again, not from there, so I wouldn't know. But Christianity mixed with folk magic is the thing. And so it was a little bit of skimming at times because I don't care about any of the Christian things, just not my thing. So I don't do anything with that, but it's a huge part in that culture. And I don't know if it's for everybody. I'm pretty sure there's gotta be some witches out there that, don't include the Christian aspect, but there's a lot that do. And so it was really interesting to get to see this weird culture that's just, it's all of these different bits and bobs commingled into this one area. And how accurate is it? Don't know. But he talks about how it's a mix of European and Irish and specifically Scottish, those two, their folk magic beliefs commingling in the area as they settled there. And it is the rednecks, it is the hillbillies. And so it is the lower class people. And for a long time here in the US, Irish immigrants were treated very poorly. Kind of how we do now with certain people from the southern border. But we've always had the bad guys, right? And so the Irish were always out. So they were always kind of treated as lower class people, and so they were really poor a lot of the time. And then you mingle that into the Appalachian area where there is a lot of poor people, and it just creates this weird different culture of sorts. And their needs are very different when you don't have money. You gotta figure it out on your own, and you get very creative. And so it just is this weird little microcosm of fun and just different beliefs coming together. He talks about how there was a lot of Cherokee influence, because that was the tribe of the area. And it's just really interesting. I think there was another tribe too, but I remember it was Cherokee in particular. But still, you get this weird mixing combination of Native American with Christian with specifically Irish and Scottish. But then you also have the poor people here, and it just, and also was mentions of the slavery and the people who either were in slavery and then came out of it, or the generations afterwards from both sides, owners and those that were considered property, which is horrible. But all of them just kind of was this weird mix. And so it was super fascinating to get to hear about that from somebody who's in that culture, we don't have that here. Like, Utah's history is quite different. Like, we're the land of, we ran away to do our weird ass religion. That was our thing, because dude wanted multiple wives and the US at the time said no. Like, that's our history. We moved here. And like, why did we stop here? I don't know. We just decided this is a good spot to stop. So like, our history is very different, because it's just different. The like eastern half of the US has a lot more history that's like documented than like here. All that to say, it was fascinating to learn about this like really niche little group of the world that like I didn't really know about. And like, it was cool to get to learn about. Does it work for me? Not really, but it was cool to learn about. Because again, I don't include Christian things really in my practice, and especially like outwardly very explicit Christian things, like, you know, the Bible, and like quotes from the Bible, not my thing. And so like, but at the same time, it didn't really bother me as much as I thought it would. I really thought it was going to be so obnoxious, but it just fit. It just like, it read so good. And like, his voice writing, so good. Like, I was fascinated. You could, like, as you're reading it, you hear the accent. And I love accents, so it was fun. Cause like, you got that Southern charm, that just certain turn of phrases that they use is just, it's so fascinating. And so like, to have that written in, it just felt like you were sitting down chit-chatting someone from, like, I think he said he was from Tennessee. It just felt like you were just sitting down and chit-chatting with some guy who's from the South, and it's just telling you all about these things. It was so cool. And like, there's one quote in particular from this that I think was actually, he said, from one of his family members, but like, I read that and like, there's certain times when you read a book and you just gotta sit it down and you just gotta sit there and think about what you just read, and this was the line, and it's like, it flipped my freaking world. And it's, fear is faith backwards. And as somebody who struggles with anxiety, I was like, what? Now granted, witches usually aren't really big on using the word faith. Like, we're all about, you have your own power, you do your own thing. We're not big on faith. Like, that's just, it's not a word you hear often in like Wicca and witchcraft communities. Just not our thing. We use other words, but faith is not usually one of them. And yet I started to implement it a little bit of like, have faith in your spells, that it's going to work. Have faith in the universe. Have faith in your relationship with the divine. And it was like, damn, that's like one of those quotes that like I could wood burn and hang on the wall to remind me about it. But like, there's other interesting things in here, like how he talks about like collecting grave dirt to be like, you know, they're not all good people, right? Like, be careful. Like, just because they were a cop or a firefighter doesn't mean they were like a good person or a judge. It doesn't mean they were a good person. You need to find that out before you be like, okay, I'm gonna take your dirt and I'm gonna use it. Like, and just all of this book, it was just so fascinating. It's one of those books I could just reread for fun, because again, it's interesting. So anyways, I feel like I'm rambling enough, but I would love to know your thoughts on this one in the comments below. I know I rambled a lot for this one. It was a lot of side stories. Basically, it's a good book. I recommend it. Again, it is very Christian, but that is part of their culture, so it kind of makes sense. But yeah, I would love to know, especially if you live from the area, how accurate is it? Because I don't know. I'm from Utah. I don't know. Like, it's not our thing. So anyways, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. Huge thank you, as always, to my patrons. If you want to check out my content over there, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. As always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I post Monday through Friday, and then starting in the new year, I'll be posting every single day again. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.